Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Organic Matters, brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. We're a bit different today in that we're not focusing on an organic farm, but we're looking at sustainability, I guess, in Irish agriculture. And key to a movement in Galway that's happening is Blaitnaid Gallagher, who is co-founder of the Galway Wool Co-op, which is a really interesting initiative. Blaitnaid, thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to hop straight in, and I guess something that would have happened or would have come up a few times is the price of wool. Nearly the cost of shearing sheep costs more than the value of the wool that you get for fleeces. I mean, that must have infuriated you as a sheep farmer.
It did, and thank you very much, Hannah, and thanks to the association for allowing us to be part of this wonderful podcast series that you've started. We at the co-op, there are several co-founders, but myself and Matty Carroll had carried out some research at the National University in Galway as part of our master's programme. So as we were both based in Galway, and I had already had a Galway sheep flock on my farm is in transition here into organic. So I decided to look at the Galway and the breed, and the fact that it was the native breed of Ireland. So the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine recognised the Galway because of the lineage, which goes back 100 years. So there's a flock book that was taken over from the Roscommon sheep breeders about 100 years ago. So we were looking at the fact that we had the Galway wool, the traditional Irish wool, the bawneen as we would have known it, and it was seeping into the national clip, and nobody was doing anything about it. So we co-founded the co-op, and we, through the work that we do with the Galway Sheep Breeders Association, we garnered an interest from Galway breeders that are based in every single province in Ireland. So the Galway is the name of the breed.
You know, the wool was essentially kind of it had turned into this low value commodity. So where has it gone? So how long have you been going, and what kind of markets have you identified for it?
So we're in our second year, and what we did was we found a customer, and then we found producers. So we actually had the customer first, and we partnered with Donegal yarns, and they recognized that a lot of their wool is actually imported and then sold as Irish. And they recognize that the reason why they do it is because the consumer actually wants soft wool, but they also accepted that the Irish farmer needs greater recognition, and they need to be taught to become wool producers. So they offered us €2.50 per kilo for Galway wool. And last year we sold to them over 5,000 kilos at our annual Mehil in Athenry. This year we've secured two customers. So we have Donegal yarn and we have Woolo, which are a Galway company that make wool produced bed clothes. So you'll have your duvet, and you'll have your bed covers, and you'd have your pillows, all made from natural biofiber, which is wool. And they've decided to buy our Galway wool as well. I think what we've done in the last 12 months is that we've taken the concept of branding and logo and awareness very seriously. We're not waiting for the government to come along and start selling the wool for us. We applied to Leader, and we were granted substantial funding towards our www.galwaywool.ie, which is our first of its kind virtual co-op here in Ireland. So the website, the promotional material, and the extensive work that we're doing on social media means that we've created a brand. We've created an awareness around Galway wool, and that's what our customer, which is the mill and Michael Burke, that's what they want. They want to be able to produce products from Galway wool with people asking them specifically for that. And this is where the added value has come to the wool.
And how have the consumers responded? I mean, I'm guessing there's demand there if you've got a second person coming on board wanting to source the wool from you.
There is demand, but there isn't enough. There isn't enough people looking for it. The wool of Irish wool is strong wool. So whether it's coming from the Galway breed, or it's coming from meat producing breeds or crossbreds that we know them, it's always going to be a product that's very suitable to home interiors. So we need to create awareness. There's a lot of hype now about sustainable fashion, and there isn't a person under 30 years of age that hasn't started to become very conscientious about their consumer choices. But what about the person that's under 50 or in around 50 that are starting to spend money on their homes, that are concerned about where or how their homes look? And we want to create a drive towards sustainable interiors, sustainable design, sustainable architecture, so that people want to have a part of Galway in their home. And we think that our market ideally is overseas. So there are people who've left Ireland and have a disposable income, and they want to have that globe piece. They want to have that, that tapestry or the area rug or the cushion or the lampshade. And they want to be able to say to their friends, this is a little piece of our heritage in a very contemporary style. So our consumer is very much the home interiors market. And we're looking to reach out to the diaspora all over the world that may have an interest in supporting rural communities here in Ireland.
Every tourist town that you walk into will have a shop selling Aran sweaters, but and Americans will pick them up and take them home and spend €100 on a Gansey, like you said. But what you're saying is that's not wool that comes from Ireland. The Irish sheep
absolutely not. No. We import all our wool for apparel because we can't put Irish wool into apparel. This is the whole misnomer that people just can't get their heads around. The wool that comes from sheep in Ireland is suitable for home interiors, and some of it, probably less than 5% of it, and that includes the Galway, which is a strong wool, can go into apparel. It can go into these jumpers. But the consumer wants a soft wool. So unless we start to breed our sheep for soft wool and meat, we won't actually be able to supply these shops. So I don't look unfavorably at all towards these shops, because all they're doing is providing a product which the consumer wants. The consumer wants a Gansey that's soft and that they can wear and that they like and that it's cuddly. And that's fine. But what I'd love them to be able to do is almost like what was done for the organic food movement 40 years ago, is that they would put a small section, and I'm talking about the bigger shops. I don't want to name any shop, but there are lots of them out there that are trading on Irishness and the concept of being Irish. But imagine if they just put a small rail aside and said, these products are all made from Irish grown wool. Just like Super Crane and the larger supermarkets did, 40 years ago. They displayed all the fresh fruit and vegetables, and then they put a small section aside for organic grown veg. And then it got larger and larger and larger. And eventually the story came out that there are two types of produce. There are those that are produced commercially, and there are those that are produced on a larger scale. And then there are those that are produced organically. And people could see the difference, and people could then make the choice themselves. Well, I think it would be not a big ask for some of these Irish retailers to give back to Irish rural communities and to give back to the Irish sheep farmer and say, okay, these are all Irish per se, but these are really genuinely Irish. These are actually made from Irish grown wool. And that in itself would just say, we're being truthful, honest and authentic about our Irishness. And that these farmers can then get a chance. And there's so many other products. We don't have to always be wearing wool. There's so many other products. I was up in National College of Art and Design with two of the sheep last week. And we got a fabulous reception from the second year students there. And one of the students had actually created a slider. The sliders are all hip and trendy and they're in now, but they actually used their innovation to create a slider. The sole part of it was felted and the top part of it was crocheted. It was fantastic.
Explain what a slider is for those people who might not know what a slider is.
Okay, so your slider is your very flat shoe. It almost looks like a slipper. And all the cool, hip and trendy people, rather than going stiletto high, 3, 4, 5 inches high, the trend in fashion now is to go flat, 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 flat. And probably your flattest concept would be your slider. So you literally just slide your feet into them. It's just a really cool and hip way for, I suppose, a pair of flat sandals, very flat sandals. So there's so many things that we can do. Sorry.
Is it down to the shops, like you said, or is it down to government as well? Because I know you were talking earlier about a feasibility study that was being done by the Department of Agriculture. I mean, does this need to be led at a government level, or does it need to be led by a retail level? Who drives this?
Both. I think both, because I don't believe that we should ever look on governments to become commercial entities or to get involved in marketing or sales. I think, they have state bodies out there that do that for them, which is great. But I think what they could do is they could encourage more retailers, and in particular, they could create greater awareness around branding and around labeling. So that's a state issue. The state should be able to work with, consumer organizations and have a clear, just like we have the shamrock around the Irish food. I think we should have a clearer labeling, which could come from state research and development into how we can make Irish wool softer. So there can and there should be work done so that we can process our strong wool and then maybe return some of the oil back to it, which would soften it again and make it more suitable for softer apparel. So there's a lot that the state could do within the remit of what legislation and state legislators do. The commercial side of things is all around honesty. It's all around, well, how honest do we want to be? Do we want to kill the goose? Do we want to close down all these retail shops that are selling fabulous Aran sweaters all over the countryside? Absolutely not. You know, these are employers. A lot of these shops are actually located in rural towns. And the last thing we want to do is to have people out of work. But what we do want them to do is just create a small piece in the shop and say, well, this comes from Irish grown wool. And then let the consumer make the choice. Because at the end of the day, it's always going to be down, whatever but the retailers and the state legislators do, it's the consumer. So if we're now producing sheep for meat with wool, as course as Brillo pad, well, who's to blame for that? You know, it wasn't policy to, if you look down at what they're doing in New Zealand, they're very proud of their wool and they're exceptionally proud of their meat industry. They're able to do both. They're able to recognize that, you know, having a dual breed is very, very much part of sustainability, and farming and agricultural sustainability is why I came to talk to you today. Is like, if we can have dual purpose breeding, dual purpose animals, like we've just we've started to do something for our own farms and for the greater climate crisis that's out there. So why can't we even look to New Zealand and say, well, how come they are so proud of wool indexing when it comes to the breeds of their sheep, but here it's like, couldn't be bothered, it's too expensive. You know, there's a shocking attitude around producing wool.
Would someone say, for argument's sake, that the withdrawal of subsidies in the New Zealand agriculture sector made them, I guess, hungrier to monetize what they had, and maybe hungrier to monetize a dual purpose breed? Has subsidies made sheep farmers in Ireland lazy?
I'd be crucified if I ever made any references towards any sort of correlation between laziness and sheep farmers. And as a sheep farmer myself, I could tell you it's probably one of the most taxing types of farming that you'll actually go out and do. It's one of those few, agricultural aspects where you actually have to physically get in there and get involved.
Even if you look at the age demographic of sheep farmers in particular, they're usually located in the west of Ireland, poorer soil types. They're older farmers, usually male. They have no successors coming on behind them. Like, if there's ever a need to add value to sheep farming, it's now. Well, it was 30 years ago, like you were saying.
We could, if we get our act together, and if we take back ownership of our cultural integrity and the cultural integrity of Irish wool, we actually could end up producing fleeces here in Ireland with a price point of probably close to where the Galway is right now. The Galway fleece is worth between 10 and 12 euros per yo at the moment commercially. That's what we're doing. That's based on the voluntary work that I do and my other co-founders in the co-op. So there's no reason why we couldn't achieve that. So that your shepherd, your sheep farmer, could have his fleece at 12 euros. He could have his welfare subsidy at 10 euros. And then, you know, you have the production of the lamb and the meat thereafter. And if they're an organic producer, and, you know, I look around at so many people here, including myself, who it's a no-brainer for them to transcend over to the organic farming when it comes to sheep, because anybody that's in livestock farming and has transitioned into organic, they'll tell you that housing is probably one of the greatest costs, and it's one of the greatest, you know, deciding points. You have to look at the margins, you have to look at the housing, you have to say, well, can I actually make a profit? Can I actually make a margin on this? Whereas a lot of sheep farmers aren't even housing their sheep. So the housing cost isn't there. There's no reason why they can't. And, you know, to start creating markets for our own organic lamb, this year we're actually going to, at the tail end of this summer, we're actually starting a project where we're going to market and sell Galway lamb. So lamb from the Galway breed at traditional farmers markets. So finding a direct route to market is always going to be the way. And go back to your point about what they did in New Zealand, taking ownership of the fact that you're producing a product, whether it be food or wool or leather, and finding those markets yourself, I think is going to be crucial to the state of Irish agriculture moving forward. We're either going to go mass produced or we're going to go quality produced. And from what I'm reading and from what I'm seeing, the consumer and what we have to offer here in Ireland is going to demand a quality product. So the mass produced food is probably going to move over to another continent, but quality produced products, whether they be wool or organic food, are definitely something that we can be proud of here in Ireland. And that's why with the Galway Wool Co-op, we hope that we're ahead of ourselves in that we've set up the co-op, we've found the buyer, we have a buyer again this year, hopefully we'll have a buyer again next year. And within the next 5 years, we'll have created awareness among the consumers so that they're actually going into places and asking, is that made from Galway wool? And if we've done that, we've done something well, and we've done something that we could be very proud of. And, you know, getting an opportunity to talk to yourself and talk to the listeners of the Irish Organic Association's podcast gives us an opportunity to get more people walking into retail stores and saying, I'd love to be able to produce, to buy a rug or a throw or an area rug or something, or gift. Maybe it's just a small tapestry gift that's made from genuine native Irish Galway wool. And if we do that, and if we get partnerships and cooperation from organizations like yourselves, that means we're all coming together and we're all uniting and we're all saying, yes, we're so proud to be Irish. We're so proud to produce Irish goods. And we get that educational message across. We'll get people aware that not all Irish wool grows in Ireland.
That's great, Blaitnaid. Thank you very much for that. And we're going to pivot now, but we're going to stick with wool, I suppose, because we're going to talk to the Managing Director of Texacloth. Aiden Walsh, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Aiden, I guess for people who don't know what Texacloth is, can you give us just a bit of a rundown of who you are and what you do?
I'm looking to buy organic wool because we've found a niche market for it.
I know you have experience yourself as a sheep farmer, and you mentioned there that, you know, paying farmers 20 cents a kilo for wool wasn't sustainable. So in your previous experience, you know, what do you think a farmer needs per kg for wool for it to be sustainable?
Well, I said what I've said is we will pay twice the price of the ordinary fleece. So instead of 20 pence a kilo, we'll be 40 cents a kilo. But it is important for me to say that it's lowland wool, not mountain wool. It's lowland wool only that we will be looking for. And
okay.
I mean, I want to expand it, but I have no idea as to what the quantity of organic wool is out there.
Yeah, well, Aiden, thank you very much for that. And like I said, if anyone out there listening has organic sheep and is thinking of shearing them, get in touch with Texacloth. But for now, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. This has been the Organic Matters podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. And if anyone wants any more information on the association, you can visit www.irishorganicassociation.ie.